humanity's story was once one of triumph. They had risen from the confines of their small, blue planet and expanded into the stars, forging a place for themselves among the galaxy's great powers. But over time, their presence dwindled. Internal strife, political corruption, and endless wars chipped away at their once mighty empire. What had once been an unstoppable force began to collapse from within. Their enemies, many of whom had been waiting for a moment of weakness, took advantage of the situation. Slowly, humanity was pushed back, their territories seized, their fleets destroyed. In time, they disappeared from the galaxy altogether. For centuries, humanity had been nothing more than a whispered memory, a ghost of a once great civilization. Alien species told tales of human arrogance and power, but over time, those stories began to fade. The galaxy moved on, growing in complexity and dominance, with new empires rising to power. To the current galactic rulers, humanity was nothing more than a footnote in the long history of the stars. Few remembered them, and those who did regarded them as a failed experiment, another species that reached too far, too fast, and paid the price for their ambition. But not all of humanity was gone. While the majority of the population had perished or been scattered, there were still pockets of survivors. Descendants of those who had managed to escape the fall of their empire lived in secret. These remnants were not the mighty warriors or scientists their ancestors had once been. Instead, they were quiet, unnoticed. They had no interest in making themselves known to the galaxy that had abandoned them. However, deep within the scattered remains of their empire, there was one secret that humanity had kept, a secret even they had forgotten over the centuries: the Photon Dreadnoughts. The Photon Dreadnoughts were legends in their own right, built in the final days of humanity's decline. They were massive warships, designed to be the ultimate weapon against the galaxy's most powerful enemies. Each ship was a technological marvel, capable of unleashing unimaginable destruction through its photon-based weapon systems. These dreadnoughts were built to protect humanity's last strongholds, but the fall of the human empire happened too quickly. Before they could be deployed, the ships were hidden away, lost in the chaos of the final days. Centuries passed, and the dreadnoughts were forgotten by everyone, including the humans themselves. The shipyard where they were constructed had long been abandoned, buried in the farthest reaches of space, surrounded by anomalies and dangers that kept explorers at bay. No one in the galaxy knew that these weapons of mass destruction still existed, dormant and waiting. But times were changing. The descendants of humanity, though scattered and weakened, were beginning to unite once more. A small faction, calling themselves the Children of the Stars, had discovered ancient star maps passed down from generation to generation. These maps, forgotten by most, led to the location of the hidden Photon Dreadnoughts. The Children of the Stars knew what this meant. The Forgotten Fleet could be their ticket to reclaiming their place in the galaxy, to reviving the power of their ancestors. It wasn't an easy journey. The sector of space where the Photon Dreadnoughts were hidden was treacherous, filled with unstable wormholes and cosmic anomalies. But the Children of the Stars were determined, driven by the knowledge that these ships were their last hope for restoring humanity's might. After years of searching, they finally found the ancient shipyard. The sight was breathtaking, hundreds of massive dreadnoughts, dormant and untouched, preserved in the void of space. The dreadnoughts were colossal, larger than anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Their sleek designs, though old, were far beyond anything currently in use by the galaxy's dominant powers. The photon reactors, dormant for so long, still hummed with latent energy, just waiting to be reawakened. The Children of the Stars stood in awe. They had found the forgotten might of humanity. Now they had to bring it back to life. The task of reactivating the dreadnoughts was immense. These were not simple ships. Their systems were complex, powered by technologies that had been lost to time. It took months to understand the intricacies of the photon reactors and weapon systems. But slowly, one by one, the ships came back online. The photon energy that powered the dreadnoughts was unlike anything in the galaxy today, an almost limitless source of power, capable of devastating destruction. The first dreadnought to be reactivated sent shockwaves through the Children of the Stars. Its sheer power was overwhelming. The ship was armed with photon cannons capable of vaporizing entire fleets with a single blast. Its shields, powered by the same energy, made it nearly indestructible. And this was just one ship. There were hundreds more, waiting to be brought online. Word of the reactivation of the fleet was kept secret from the galaxy. The children of the stars knew they had to be cautious. The galaxy's current rulers would not take kindly to humanity's return, especially if they were armed with the most powerful weapons ever created. But it was only a matter of time before the rest of the galaxy would take notice. The moment the first dreadnought left the shipyard, sensors across the sector would pick it up. The return of humanity's forgotten might was inevitable. The galaxy was not prepared for what was coming. The dominant alien species, comfortable in their control, had no idea that humanity was about to make its return. They had long believed that they were the pinnacle of power, and any threat to their rule had been crushed long ago. But they had never faced anything like the Photon Dreadnoughts. Humanity's enemies had forgotten what it meant to fear the human race, and they were about to be reminded. The children of the stars, now in control of the fleet, were not the same humans that had once ruled the galaxy. They were hardened by centuries of survival, forged in the fires of loss and desperation. They had nothing left to lose, and now, with the dreadnoughts at their disposal, they were ready to take back what had been stolen from their ancestors. As the first dreadnought powered up its engines, the children of the stars knew that this was only the beginning. They were no longer scattered survivors, no longer hiding in the shadows of their ancestors' failure. They were the heirs to humanity's forgotten might, and the galaxy was about to learn what that truly meant. The forgotten dreadnought fleet, armed with photon weapons that no other species could match, was ready to remind the galaxy why humanity had once been feared. The children of the stars were ready to reclaim their birthright, and the galaxy, unaware of the storm that was brewing, would soon feel the full force of humanity's return. The photon dreadnoughts had awoken, and with them, so had the fury of a species long thought extinct. The rediscovery of the Photon Dreadnought fleet had set the children of the stars on a path they could never turn back from. These warships, relics of humanity's past, represented an unparalleled level of power. But finding them was only the first step. Now, the task of bringing these ancient giants back to life lay before them, and it was a monumental one. The ships had been dormant for centuries, and while their exterior structures remained imposing, their systems had been offline for so long that reactivation was no simple task. The technology used to build these dreadnoughts was beyond what even the most advanced current galactic powers could comprehend. The photon reactors that powered the ships were an ancient marvel of human engineering, capable of generating nearly limitless energy by harnessing photon emissions and manipulating them to fuel everything from propulsion to weapons. The children of the stars gathered the best minds they had, engineers, scientists, and tacticians. This was their greatest challenge, to understand and restore a technology that had been lost for centuries. They began carefully, with one of the smaller dreadnoughts, studying every system, every wire, and every mechanism. The ship's photon reactor, at its heart, had been shut down for centuries. It was a complex engine, unlike anything modern humanity had encountered in their scattered existence. Restarting it required precision, and one mistake could lead to disaster. It took weeks of trial and error, deciphering old human code, patching broken systems, and improvising where knowledge gaps existed. But one day, after a long series of attempts, the reactor finally came to life. The ship, once silent and cold, hummed with power as the photon reactor fed energy back into its systems. Lights flickered on, shields powered up, and the photon cannons, massive weapons capable of devastating an entire fleet, began to warm up. For the first time in centuries, a photon dreadnought had awoken. The power that coursed through the ship was staggering. As the children of the stars stood on the deck of the reactivated dreadnought, they realized they were standing on something that the galaxy had never seen before, not even in its current form. This was a weapon that had been built at the height of human technological advancement, a weapon designed not just to win battles but to wipe out entire fleets. The photon cannons could unleash focused blasts of energy capable of tearing through the shields and hulls of any known ship with ease. But one ship wasn't enough. They needed the whole fleet. As the first dreadnought powered up and began its diagnostic systems, the team of engineers and scientists expanded their efforts. With the knowledge gained from the first activation, the reawakening of the remaining ships became a faster process. Each dreadnought, though dormant for centuries, retained its full potential, waiting for the day it would be called upon again. One by one, the massive warships lit up, their photon reactors surging with energy, their systems coming back online. As the fleet came to life, the children of the stars realized the magnitude of what they had uncovered. They were now in possession of the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever seen, but they needed to ensure that this power was not wasted. They had to test the dreadnoughts, to understand how to wield this ancient force properly. A small alien reconnaissance fleet, drifting too close to the shipyard, provided the perfect opportunity. The aliens were unaware of what they had stumbled upon. They were from a minor galactic power, conducting a routine patrol near the uncharted region where the shipyard was hidden. They had no reason to expect anything significant in such a remote area of space, and they certainly had no idea that they had encountered humanity's lost fleet. The children of the stars, needing a real test for their reawakened warships, decided to act. The dreadnoughts, with their photon cannons primed and ready, moved silently through space. Their advanced shielding systems made them almost invisible to the alien ship's sensors, giving humanity's forces the element of surprise. The alien fleet, comprised of fast but lightly armored ships, stood no chance against the might of the dreadnoughts. The moment the order was given, the photon cannons fired. The destruction was instantaneous. The alien ships, unaware of the dreadnoughts' approach, were vaporized within moments. The photon cannons unleashed beams of pure energy, slicing through shields, hulls, and entire sections of ships with terrifying precision. The aliens barely had time to react before their fleet was reduced to nothing more than debris floating in space. The power of the dreadnoughts was fully realized in that moment, and it was far beyond anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Word of the destruction spread quickly, though the exact nature of the attackers remained a mystery. No one in the galaxy knew who had wiped out the alien patrol, but rumors began to circulate. Talk of a new force, equipped with unimaginable technology, spread through the galactic networks. Speculation ran rampant, but no one had any concrete information. The children of the stars, meanwhile, continued to work in secret, keeping the full extent of their fleet hidden for as long as possible. The successful test of the Photon dreadnoughts had confirmed what they had hoped for. These ships were the key to humanity's return. They were more powerful than anything in the galaxy, capable of decimating entire fleets with ease. But more than just weapons, the dreadnoughts were symbols of humanity's resurgence, of a power that had been forgotten but not lost. As the news of the alien fleet's destruction spread, fear began to ripple through the galaxy. Major powers, who had long grown comfortable in their dominance, began to worry. They had no idea who had destroyed the patrol fleet, but they knew that whoever it was possessed technology far beyond their own. The galaxy had not seen anything like this in living memory, and the idea of an unknown force with such devastating power was enough to shake even the most secure empires. But for now, humanity remained in the shadows, quietly preparing for the day they would fully reveal themselves. The dreadnoughts, now fully operational, were just the beginning. The children of the stars knew that they would need to be strategic in how they used this power. The galaxy, though afraid, was not yet aware of what was coming. And when humanity finally made its presence known, the Photon dreadnoughts would be the vanguard of their return. The galaxy had grown complacent in humanity's absence, but that was about to change. The children of the stars were ready to remind the galaxy of humanity's forgotten might, and the dreadnoughts were the key to their resurgence. The test had proven their power, but the real battles were still to come. For now, the galaxy remained unaware of the storm that was building, but soon enough, they would know the truth. Humanity was coming back, and this time, they had the power to reshape the galaxy. The time had come for humanity to reclaim what was once theirs. With the Photon dreadnought fleet fully operational, the children of the stars had no intention of waiting for the galaxy to figure out what had happened. They knew that every major power in the galaxy would soon be on alert, searching for the source of the destruction caused by their test run. Now was the moment to strike, before the galaxy could mount a proper defense, before alliances were forged to stop them. The plan was simple: retake the lost human territories, and in doing so, send a message that humanity was no longer a forgotten race but a force to be feared once more. The first target was a sector that had once been a vital part of the human empire, now controlled by a mid-tier alien faction that had claimed it centuries ago during humanity's collapse. This faction, arrogant in their power, had long used the sector's resources to fuel their own ambitions, never considering the possibility that humans would return to reclaim it. They had grown comfortable, their military forces spread thin across their borders, believing their superiority was unchallenged. The Photon Dreadnoughts moved swiftly. There was no warning, no negotiation. Humanity's strategy was clear from the start: overwhelm and obliterate. The alien faction's fleets were stationed across multiple worlds, each believing their position was secure. They had grown used to small skirmishes with neighboring powers, and their forces were designed more for control and occupation than defense against an unknown adversary. They were completely unprepared for what was about to descend upon them. The human fleet entered the sector, and within moments, their first target appeared on sensors. A group of alien warships, patrolling lazily near a resource-rich asteroid belt, suddenly found themselves facing the Photon Dreadnoughts. Before the aliens could even scramble their defenses, the Dreadnoughts fired. Photon cannons unleashed beams of pure energy, slicing through the alien ships like they were made of paper. Entire sections of the enemy fleet disintegrated in seconds, their shields and armor useless against the raw power of the Dreadnoughts. Panic spread across the alien communications network. Ships that had once felt untouchable were obliterated in mere moments. The alien commanders, unable to comprehend the sheer destructive force of their enemy, tried desperately to organize a defense. But the Dreadnoughts didn't give them time. Every attempt to regroup or launch a counterattack was met with brutal efficiency. The humans, having studied the sector's defenses, knew exactly where to strike. Key infrastructure was targeted next. Shipyards, command centers, and supply depots were all destroyed with precision. What made the attack so devastating wasn't just the firepower of the Dreadnoughts, but the sheer speed and efficiency with which the humans operated. They didn't linger on the battlefield, engaging in drawn-out skirmishes or allowing their enemies to mount a defense. They struck hard, fast, and without mercy, moving from one target to the next before the aliens could even process what was happening. Within hours, entire sectors were in chaos, and the alien forces were in full retreat. As the humans pressed deeper into the territory, the psychological impact of their assault began to take hold. Alien commanders, unsure of who they were fighting, started abandoning their posts, pulling their forces back in a desperate attempt to regroup. But there was no regrouping. The Photon Dreadnoughts were relentless. Every ship that stood in their way was destroyed. Every base that attempted to defend itself was annihilated. Fear spread like wildfire, and the alien forces, once so confident in their control, were now fleeing in disarray. The Dreadnoughts, though overwhelming in their power, were not just blunt instruments of destruction. Humanity had learned from its past mistakes, and now they fought with a level of tactical brilliance that their enemies couldn't match. Each move was calculated, each strike precisely timed. The children of the stars were not here to conquer for the sake of power. They were here to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. The alien forces, blinded by their arrogance and complacency, had never considered that humanity would return with such devastating force. As the final remnants of the alien fleet fled the sector, the children of the stars moved in to secure the territory. Planetary defenses were neutralized, spaceports were taken over, and the humans reclaimed the sector that had once been a cornerstone of their empire. The message was clear: humanity was back, and they weren't asking for permission. But the battle wasn't over. While the humans celebrated their victory in this sector, the rest of the galaxy was beginning to take notice. Word of the destruction, of the unknown fleet that had wiped out an entire alien faction in a matter of days, began to spread. The major powers of the galaxy, long accustomed to their dominance, grew uneasy. They knew that if this fleet could take down one faction so quickly, it was only a matter of time before they would be next. Across the galaxy, leaders scrambled to make sense of the reports coming in. Some dismissed the rumors, believing them to be exaggerated tales of an unknown marauding force. But others knew better. They had seen the signs, the precision, the overwhelming firepower. It was clear that whoever was behind these attacks wasn't just another pirate fleet or small-time raider. This was something different. This was something far more dangerous. The first official response came from the Galactic Council, a coalition of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They convened an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. Intelligence reports were scarce, but what little information they had was enough to make them nervous. The destruction of the alien faction's fleet was not something they could ignore. If this unknown force continued its campaign, it could destabilize the entire region. The Council issued a formal statement, warning all member species to prepare for a potential conflict. They called for alliances, hoping to unite the galaxy's powers in a joint defense against this new threat. But the children of the stars were prepared for this response. They knew that once they made their move, the rest of the galaxy would scramble to stop them. It was part of their strategy. They needed the galaxy to unite against them because only then could they show the full extent of their power. The Photon Dreadnoughts were not just weapons, they were symbols of humanity's return, a force that would reshape the galaxy. The children of the stars had waited for centuries for this moment, and they would not let it slip away. As the alien factions scrambled to form alliances and mount a defense, the humans continued their campaign. Each sector they reclaimed brought them closer to their ultimate goal, the restoration of the human empire. And with every battle, every destroyed fleet, the fear of humanity's return spread further. The galaxy was beginning to understand that this was not just an isolated incident. This was the resurgence of a species that had been underestimated for far too long. The children of the stars knew that the real war was still to come. The Galactic Council would not sit idly by as humanity retook their lost territories. They would come with everything they had, desperate to stop the return of the Photon Dreadnoughts. But the humans were ready. They had the power, the strategy, and the determination to win. And when the time came, they would show the galaxy that humanity was not just back, they were stronger than ever before. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. The coordinated attacks, the ruthless efficiency, the overwhelming power of the Photon Dreadnoughts, all of it had taken the galaxy's dominant factions by surprise. What had started as whispers and rumors had now become an undeniable reality. Humanity had returned, and their forgotten might was making itself known across the stars. The major powers, long comfortable in their dominance, could no longer ignore the threat. They had watched as human forces reclaimed entire sectors, decimating fleets and destroying military outposts with frightening ease. The galactic powers had no choice but to unite. The Galactic Council, a coalition of the most powerful empires, called an emergency summit. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered in a fortified space station in the neutral zone, their faces drawn with anxiety. They knew that individually, their fleets stood no chance against the Photon Dreadnoughts. They had seen the reports, the footage of human ships vaporizing entire fleets with a single blast of their photon cannons. The Council had no choice but to form a united front, a combined military force that would stand against humanity's resurgence. The plan was simple: overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. The Galactic Council had access to hundreds of fleets, thousands of ships. They would bring everything they had, every warship, every fighter, every soldier. It was the only way they believed they could defeat humanity. They had seen that the Photon Dreadnoughts were powerful, but they were still few in number. The Council's strategy was to throw wave after wave of ships at the human fleet, hoping that eventually, the numbers would be too much, that even the mighty Dreadnoughts couldn't withstand a full-scale assault from every corner of the galaxy. The Council's combined fleet, the largest ever assembled in galactic history, began its approach. Thousands of ships from dozens of species, all converging on the sector where the children of the stars had made their base of operations. The fleet was so vast it blotted out entire sectors of space, stretching as far as the eye could see. The Galactic Council had committed everything to this battle. If they failed, humanity would be unstoppable, and the balance of power in the galaxy would be shattered. But humanity had anticipated this response. The children of the stars knew that their enemies would try to crush them with numbers, and they had prepared accordingly. The Photon Dreadnoughts were not just powerful warships, they were designed for exactly this kind of scenario. They were built to face overwhelming odds, to take on entire armadas and emerge victorious. Each dreadnought was equipped with an array of advanced weaponry, shielding, and tactical systems that allowed them to operate independently, coordinating with one another in perfect harmony. As the Galactic Council's fleet approached, the Photon Dreadnoughts moved into position. There were fewer than 100 of them, but they held the advantage. They had been designed to handle large-scale engagements, their photon cannons capable of taking out multiple ships with a single shot. Their shields were impenetrable, able to absorb and deflect almost any form of energy or projectile. And most importantly, they had been deployed strategically, positioned in key locations across the sector to maximize their effectiveness. The battle began with a single command. The Galactic Council's forces opened fire, unleashing a torrent of missiles, energy blasts, and railgun rounds. The combined firepower of thousands of ships filled the void of space with a blinding display of destruction. But the Photon Dreadnoughts held firm. Their shields absorbed the initial volley with ease, and then, without warning, they struck back. The first volley of photon cannon fire tore through the Galactic Council's fleet like it wasn't even there. Entire squadrons of ships were vaporized in an instant, reduced to nothing more than dust and debris. The dreadnoughts didn't stop there. They moved with calculated precision, targeting the Council's command ships, carriers, and battleships. Each shot was devastating, each blast crippling the Council's ability to coordinate their forces. Panic spread through the Galactic Council's fleet. Their numerical advantage, the very thing they had counted on to win the battle, was evaporating before their eyes. The Photon Dreadnoughts were simply too powerful. No matter how many ships they sent into the fray, the humans responded with a level of tactical precision that the Council's forces couldn't match. Every attempt to flank, every effort to overwhelm the Dreadnoughts, was met with brutal efficiency. The Council's command center was in chaos. Admirals barked orders, trying to regain control of the situation, but it was too late. Their fleets were being torn apart faster than they could react. The Photon Dreadnoughts were operating on a different level, using advanced tactics that took advantage of the Council's disorganization. The humans had anticipated every move, every strategy. The galactic forces were being outmaneuvered at every turn. And then, the final blow came. The children of the stars, having lured the Galactic Council's forces into a vulnerable position, revealed their ultimate weapon, the Photon Dreadnought's superweapon, a device so powerful it had never been used before. As the Council's fleet continued to press forward in desperation, the Dreadnoughts activated the Photon Singularity Cannon, a weapon capable of creating a miniature black hole, collapsing space and time in its vicinity, and pulling everything within range into oblivion. The Council's fleet had no defense against it. The Singularity Cannon fired, and in an instant, the largest section of the Council's fleet was gone, sucked into the void, obliterated by the unimaginable gravitational forces. The remaining ships, seeing the devastation, broke formation and fled in terror. What had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was now little more than scattered remnants, running for their lives. The battle was over. Humanity had won. The children of the stars, now in full control of the sector, broadcast a message across the galaxy. It was simple, direct, and unmistakable. Humanity was back. They had reclaimed their power, their territory, and their place among the stars. The Photon Dreadnoughts, long thought to be relics of a forgotten age, were now the most feared force in the galaxy. The message was clear: any who opposed humanity would face the same fate as the Galactic Council. In the aftermath of the battle, the galaxy was thrown into chaos. The Galactic Council, once the pillar of power, had been shattered. Member species, no longer confident in the Council's ability to protect them, began to withdraw from the coalition. Alliances crumbled, and former enemies began turning on one another, desperate to secure their own safety in the face of humanity's return. Nighty reclaimed its place among the stars. The children of the stars, having secured their victory, began to rebuild the human empire. They had proven that humanity's forgotten might was not just a relic of the past but a force that could shape the future. The Photon Dreadnoughts were their vanguard, and with them, humanity would once again rise to the top of the galactic order. The galaxy, now fully aware of what humanity was capable of, had no choice but to accept the new reality. The Photon Dreadnoughts had rewritten the rules of galactic warfare, and humanity's return was no longer a question of if, but of how much of the galaxy they would control. The children of the stars were ready to lead, and the galaxy, forever changed, would never forget the day Huma